Shalom Makayam. First, I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashim, Yahushua, Bahashim, Rakah, Kodash, Tawada, Amen. And double honors for the elders of GMS, and double honors to all the camps on the highways and byways, bringing out the word in truth and spirit and sincerity, in the name of Yahweh, Ba'ashim, Yahushua, Bahashim, Rakah, Kodash, Tawada, Amen. Shalom brothers, Shalom sisters. Okay, today I want to talk about this article here that I came across, printed by the, they call themselves the BreakingIsraelNews.com. All right, BreakingIsraelNews.com. This is their website. This is what they printed. So they printed this article a couple of days ago. Today is the 16th of May, so 2 days ago they printed this article. All right, so they titled it Rabbi. So the rabbi, some rabbi. His name is what's his name? His name is here somewhere. We'll get to his name in a little while anyway. Right, you got the rabbi said that Trump's confronting Iran as tikkun of Esau. All right. Now I was looking at the word tikkun. I just quickly looked it up to see what it meant, and it says it means a Hebrew word mean fixing or rectification. Right. It has several connotations in Judaism. Right, which is what those so-called Jews practice. So anyway, so it says President Trump confronting Iran as tikkun, so fixing or rectification of Esau. All right. So the first thing that hit me is when they said of Esau. So they know that the white man is Esau, but they don't believe that they are Esau. All right. So the so-called Jew man knows that the so-called white man is Esau. So he knows that by putting this tikkun, he's the fixing of Esau, the fixing of the white man. All right. But this so-called Jew somehow doesn't realize that he is Esau as well. All right. This rabbi and Breaking News Israel don't seem to realize that they are Edomites as well. All right. They are Amalekites, and Amalek is Esau's grandson. All right. Just so you know that. All right. That's who Amalek is. He's Esau's grandson. All right. So they say these are tikkun of Esau. So that was the first point I wanted to show you. Right. So if we look at Amalek, really show you. See, it says here, and Tema was the concubine to Elizapaz, Esau's son, and she bare to Elizapaz Amalek. These are the sons of Adar, Esau's wife. Okay, so the Amalekites are those so-called Jews. Those so-called Jews in Israel are Amalekites. So those are Edomites as well. So, you know, he's recognized that Trump is an Edomite. Right? He's the fixing of Esau, the fixing of the so-called white man, but I don't recognize that they are Edomites. Anyway, so the next point I was reading here was this headline here. So he writes here, he says, just highlight it here. He says, and now I will tell you the truth. All right? Persia will have 3 more kings, and the 4th will be wealthier than them all. By the power he obtains through his wealth, he will stir everyone up against the kingdom of Greece. Right? So he's quoted Daniel's chapter 11, verse 2. All right? This is what he's quoted, all right? Because this is where the scripture comes from. Daniel 11, chapter 2. And he writes underneath it here, he says, as tensions between Iran and the US rise, the first spark of an actual conflict appears. Ancient prophecies concerning pre-Messiah politics seem suddenly relevant like never before. So this so-called Jew, this so-called rabbi who's meant to be some scholar from some university and got all these degrees and all of these things behind him and so forth, right, believes that Daniel 11 and 2 is a prophecy that's happening today in the Middle East. Let me just tell you something, Mr. so-called rabbi, scholar, professor and so forth. Daniel's chapter 11 has already happened. Daniel chapter 11 happened over 2,000 years ago. Happened around 2,500 years ago on average. All right, that's when it happened. Daniel chapter 11 happened around 2,500 years ago. All right, let me tell you this. All right, so it goes back. Daniel chapter 11 starts off around the time of, I'm going to show you, I'm going to make it quite clear to you, of Cyrus the Great, right, which are the 3 kings, all right, which is one of the 3 kings, all the way up to, what's his name, Alexander the Great, all right, who took down the Persian Empire. Let me reiterate this again, clearly, loudly. Daniel's chapter 11 prophecy has already happened. It happened over It happened around 2,300 to 2,500 years ago. In between that period there, Daniel chapter 11 came to pass. All right? Let me make that quite clear to you. All right? So this is this rabbi. He believes Daniel chapter 11 is a prophecy happening right now in the Middle East right now. No. What's happening in the Middle East right now is a prophecy in Joel chapter 3 verse 2 and Ezekiel chapter 38 and Ezekiel chapter 39, but mainly Ezekiel chapter 38, what's taking place in the Middle East. That's the prophecies of World War III that's going to kick off in the Middle East. And Joel chapter 3. I don't want to misquote anything when I tell you this, right? Because I tell you, boy, these mothers, man, they really think they know scripture. They don't know nothing named scripture, right? These professors, these theologians, right? These so-called scholars, all right? Where are we? Sorry. Joel chapter, I don't want to misquote. Yeah, Joel chapter 3 verse 2, all right? That is what's happening in the Middle East. That's what's taking place in the Middle East right now, and is going to happen in the Middle East, right? So this guy here, he calls himself, he's a professor. Where is he? Rabbi Yitzka, all right? This is who he is, all right? So he says he's from, I just want to see, they had his credentials here, right? You could read this article. I'll put it up in my comments, in my description part of this video. I'll put this whole thing up so you can read it yourself, all right? I just want to see if it shows you. It did show me, because I read it already, this so-called man. Anyway, so he goes down here. I'm going to jump through. He says, this is it. He's a rabbi. Okay, so this is not important right now. Oh, here it is here. Rabbi Ken Spierio, a historian and senior lecturer, all right, and researcher for the Aish HaTorah Yavitsa, notes the complex how the complex relationships being played out in the Middle East today mirror conflicts described in prophecy. Right. So, what is being played out in the Middle East today does mirror conflicts described in the prophecy in the scriptures, but it is not Daniel's chapter 11. Daniel's chapter 11, I would say this again, has already happened. Happened around 2,300 to 2,500 years ago. Daniel chapter 11. All of Daniel chapter 11 has come to pass. Okay? What's happening and taking place in the Middle East is Ezekiel chapter 38, Ezekiel chapter 39, and Joel chapter 3. All right? And there are other parts within the scriptures that explains what's taking place in the Middle East and what's going to take place between America and Russia, Iran and the rest of the nations and so forth, all right? And also what you see going on in Daniel, parts of Daniel chapter 2 to do with the 10 toes, right? To do with the European Union. These are things that are taking place right now, okay? Parts of the prophecies that are taking place right now. When it speaks of where we go here? Where is it? Yeah, and the 10 toes in Daniel chapter 2, when it speaks of around about verse say 39 going downwards, when it speaks about the last kingdom, the Roman Empire, the 10 toes, partly strong, partly weak as the European Union, how that's going to fall apart and how they're going to get drawn into the war. And this is how World War III is going to take place. And then you go down to verse 44, 45. This is Daniel chapter 2. These are things that are taking place right now. These are prophecies taking place right now. The 10 toes are all to do with the European Union falling apart. But this is what these idiots are. This man is a historian, senior lecturer, researcher, right? This is what I said to you. If the Most High, if the Holy Spirit is not dealing with you, if the Holy Spirit through Yahweh Shem Shai did not give you the teachers to make you understand the scriptures, and then when the Holy Spirit is dealing with you, it gives you understanding to seek out and discern the scriptures, right? In truth, sincerity, and spirit. You have no idea what you are reading. You're going to read the book like it's a bloody novel, right? Like you're reading some Ian Fleming novel, all right? So he writes down here. That's another quick point I want to point out here. I'll tell you, these devils know their Esau, you know. So this is the same professor here, Rabbi Superior cited Rabbi Mendel Kasser, who comments extensively on current events from a Torah perspective. In a lecture given 2 years ago, Rabbi Kisha describes Trump's victory as a revealed miracle, saying that the new president was the takin, the fixing of Esau. All right, so they know the white man's Esau. They know quite equivalently that the so-called white man's Esau. But what he's trying to dissociate himself from is that he's an Edomite as well. So this so-called Jew rabbi somehow believes that he's not an Edomite, he's not Esau, right? When I quite showed you quite clearly here, all right, that Amalek is Esau's grandson, and the majority of those so-called Jews in Israel, calling themselves Israelis today, are Amalekites, right? They go back to Esau. They are Edomites as well, all right? So this is what he's writing. I'm telling these devils, right, they make you laugh. Then he says, Trump is the Esau West. So he knows the so-called West is Esau, are the Edomites. So the so-called white people that make up the Western Hemisphere, you know, from Europe, from England, to France, to Germany, to Norway, to Denmark, to Spain, to Portugal, all of these Western European countries, to America, Australia. So he knows the West is Esau. He knows that the so-called white man is Esau. But somehow he believes that these so-called white Jews, Edomite, these Amalekite Jews, he's thinking they're not Esau. All right, so he knows that. All right, so you can read this if you quite. I'll put it in my descriptions column for you to read this whole thing. All right, but the point I really want to focus on is this here. Is Daniel's chapter 11. So this so-called scholar, lecturer, he's a lecturer, he's a scholar, he's a rabbi, he's all of these things, right? Theologian, whatever. He's got all of these titles behind him. This so-called educated, highly educated man has no understanding of the scriptures. The only understanding he has of the scriptures that he knows in the scriptures is the prophecy of the end days. But where it is to find it, to seek it out, to discern it, to be able to break down the scriptures, this he can't do. This so-called scholar can't do. Because for him to say Daniel 11 is what's taking place in the Middle East now, why he writes here, as tensions between Iran and the US rise, the first sparks of the actual conflict appear, ancient prophecies concerning pre-Messiah politics seem suddenly relevant like never before. So this is what he quotes here, right? So we're going to quickly go through Daniel's chapter 11, right? I'm going to give you, hopefully, a quickly 60 minutes, right? Please stay with me, breakdown of Daniel's chapter 11, all right? So we're going to start here. So it says, Daniel chapter 11, verse 1. So it says, also in the first year of Darius the Mede, even I stood to confirm and to strengthen him, right? So that's Daniel himself speaking of himself. It says, and now will I show thee the truth. Behold, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia, all right? And the 4th shall be far richer than they all. And by his strength, through his riches, he shall stir up all against the realm of the Grecia, of Grecia, right? So who are those 3 kings that we're speaking of? The first one is Cyrus the Great, all right? So, who reigned from around 1559, 1560 BC, all right, to around 530 BC. The second, I actually brought it up here. I've got the list of monarchs here. The second is Cambyses the second here, all right? These are the 3 kings that Daniel prophesies about, all right? Cyrus the Great was the first Persian king, the king of the Persian and the Median Empire, which is known as the Achaemenid Empire, all right, dynasty. The second is Cambyses II. He reigned from 530 BC to 522 BC. The third was Cambyses' brother, Bardia, right? This is the son of Cyrus the Great, right? They said he was an imposter claiming to be Bardia, right? But this is who he was. He only reigned for a short stint, just under a year, the year of 522 BC, before he was killed by Persian aristocrats, right? The 4th was Darius the First, right? So when it says here, when the scripture says, and now I shall show thee, behold, there shall stand up 3 kings in Persia, right? The 3 kings are these 3 here. Cyrus the Great is the first, Cambyses the second is the second, and Bardia is the third. This is who we're talking about, because these are the kings of the Persian and the Median Empire, which is known as the Achaemenid Empire, right? That's what is known. That's the first, also called the First Persian Empire. Was an ancient Iranian empire based in Western Asia, founded by Cyrus the Great, ranging at its greatest extent from the Balkans and from Eastern Europe proper in the west and to the Indus Valley in the east. All right, so that this is the Persian Empire. This is who Daniel spoke about. So when he says here in Daniel's chapter 11 verse 2, when Daniel says, "And now will I show thee the truth, behold, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia." These are the 3 kings he's speaking of. Cyrus the Great is the first, right? Because he was the first king of the Persian Empire, just like how you see here. Cambius the second, his son, was the second, and Bardidia was his other son, was the third king. Those are the first 3 kings, right? In verse 2. Okay, just so you know that. And then it says, "And the 4th shall be far richer than they all, and by his strength through his riches he shall stir up all against the realm of Gracia." So who is the 4th? The 4th is who? Darius the First, right? The 4th is Darius the First, right? So how do we know it's speaking of Darius the First? Not just because of we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the first 4 kings, right? Which is quite clear and evident, but also to what the scripture says in his prophecy. Daniel said, "The 4th king shall be far richer than they all," right? "And his strength through his riches, he shall stir up all against the realm of Gracia." So he's going to be far richer than them all. And he's going to be the first king to stir up the animosity between the Persian Empire and the Grecian Empire. All right. So how do we know this? So let's quickly look up Darius. So Darius here. We're going to show you Darius the First. Right. Primary sources. Early life. Not there. Early reign. Achaemenid Empire, where is it? Egypt Valley, no. Hold on. There it is. Persian invasion of Greece. Darius' European expedition was a major event in his reign, which began with the invasion of Thrace. Darius also conquered many cities of the northern Aegean, Pannonia and Macedonian submitted voluntarily. After the demand of the earth and water, becoming a vassal kingdom, he left the Megabytes to conquer Thrace, returning to Sardis to spend winter. The Greeks living in Asia Minor and some of the Greek islands have submitted to Persian rule already by 510 BC. Nevertheless, there were certain Greeks who were pro-Persian, although these were largely based in Athens. To improve Greek-Persian relationships, Darius opened his court and treasuries to those Greeks who wanted to serve him. These Greeks served as soldiers, artisans, statesmen, and mariners for Darius. However, the increasing concerns amongst the Greeks over the strength of Darius's kingdom, along with the constant interference by the Greeks in Ionia and Lydia, were stepping stones towards the conflict that was yet to come between Persia and certain of the leading Greek states. Right? So if you continue reading, it says, when Aristogoras organized the Ionian revolt, Eritrea and Athens supported him by sending ships and troops to Ionia by burning Sardis. Right? Persian military and naval operations to quell the revolt ended in the Persian reoccupation of Ionia and Greek islands, as well as the re-subjugation of Thrace and the conquering of the Macedonians in 492 BC under Mardoris. Right? So he was the one that stirred up when it says in chapter 2, it says, when it says here, and his riches, he says, and stirred up all against the realm of the Grecian. It was Darius the First, all right? Now, when it speaks about his riches, it says, and by his strength, through his riches, he shall stir up all against the Greeks, right? So let me give you a quick understanding of his riches here, if it will show you here. Where is it? Economy. Here it is here. Economy. Right. Darius introduced a new universal currency called the Daric sometime before 500 BC. Darius used the coinage system as a transitional currency to regulate trade and commerce throughout his empire. The Daric was also recognized beyond the borders of the empire in places such as Celtic, Central Europe, and Eastern Europe. There were 2 types of Darics, a gold Daric and a silver Daric. Only the king could mint gold Darics. Important generals and satraps minted silver darics, the latter usually to recruit Greek mercenaries in Anatolia. The daric was a major boost to international trade. Trade goods such as textiles, carpet, tools, metal objects began to travel throughout Asia, Europe and Africa to further improve trade. Darius built the Royal Road, a postal system and Phoenician-based commercial shippings. The daric also improved government revenues as the introduction of the daric made it easier to collect new taxes on land, livestock and marketplaces. This led to the registration of land, which was measured and then taxed. The increased government revenues helped maintain and improve existing infrastructure and helped fund irrigation projects in dry lands. The new tax system also led to the foundation of the state banking and creation of banking firms. One of the most famous banking firms was the Marishu Sons, based in the Babylonian city of Nippur. These banking firms provided loans and credits to clients. All right. In the effort to further improve trade, Darius built canals, underground waterways, and a powerful navy. He further improved and expanded the network of roads and way stations throughout the empire so that there was a system of travel authorization for the king, satraps, and other high officials, which entitled the traveller to draw provisions at daily stopping places. And this is the gold daric, such as this one, with a purity of 95.8% gold. All right. So this is the king who was more richer than the other, because the gold daric was only minted by the king, and it had the king's inscription on it as well, to show this one was printed directly by the king, and it was 98%, like I said, 95.5%, 96% gold. So when it says here, and the fourth shall be far richer than they all, it's talking about Darius the First. All right, he was the fourth king. Not that he was just the fourth king in the line of monarchs, showing you right here. Cyrus, Cambius 2, Bardidia 3, Darius the First was the fourth king. But also, just like he said, he was the one that was richer than all the others, and he was the one that stirred up all the realm of Gracia, right? Which is why he went to war again back with the Greek colonies, right? Ionia, Athens and so forth and that, all right? Just so you understand that, all right? So that's verse 2, all right? I didn't want to spend too long on that, but I just need to get a proper understanding to make you understand that these devils here do not understand scriptures. We, through our great teachers at GMS, understand scriptures, and through the Holy Spirit has given us, the Lord has ordained us through the Holy Spirit to give us true understanding of the scriptures. It's as simple as that. It's Sri Haba Shimi Hawashai. If the Lord is not dealing with you, you're not going to understand the scriptures. You're not going to be able to break down these scriptures accordingly in the spirit, how they're supposed to be broken down. So verse 3 says, and a mighty king shall stand up, that shall rule with great dominion and do according to his will. That mighty king is Alexander the Great, the son of Philip of Macedonia. He was the he-goat of the prophecies of Daniel's chapter 8, verses 5 to 7 and verse 21. All right. I don't want to have to. Oh man, let me quickly show you. He was the he-goat of Daniel's chapter 8. All right. This is this mighty king. And as I considered, I behold, a he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. And he came to the ram that had two horns, which is the Persian and the Median Empire, which had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in the fury of his power. All right, that's who the he-goat is. That's who this mighty king was. All right, that speaks of here. The mighty king shall stand up. That's Alexander the Great. He was the one. This didn't take place until another around 336 BC. He was the one that took down this particular monarch. Where is he? Xerxes the Fifth, killed by Alexander the Third, which is Alexander of Macedonia, commonly known as Alexander the Great, was a king of the ancient Greek kingdom of Macedonia and a member of the Argaean dynasty. He was born in Pella in 356 BC and succeeded his father Philip II to the throne at the age of 20. This is the man. This is the mighty king that shall stand up, that shall rule with great dominion and do according to his will. That's who that is, right? Just so you understand, right? Verse 4. And when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken and shall be divided towards the four wings of heaven. Who are the four wings of heaven? Those are his four generals. When Alexander the Great died, his kingdom was divided between his four generals, right? So, we'll go back to here. If we quick, I don't want to lose this page just because I need to come back here. If we click here, Alexander the Great, when he died, his kingdom was divided between his four generals, all right? He had four generals. Let's see if they've got their names here. Lineage, childhood, accession. Let me see. Asia Minor, that's him taking down the Persian and Median Empire. Fall of the East, problems post. Let me see, so we'll go to his death. Death and succession, right. Died in Paris, Nebuchadnezzar. Where are they? I can tell you their names. Antigonus, Ptolemy, Seleucus. But I want to show you it right here. Ptolemy, that's one of them, Ptolemy. You got Antiochus, division of the empire, here we go. According to Didius, the strongest, Rome. Let's see if it's got it here. There you go. So you got Ptolemy, the Seleucid Empire, the Kingdom of Macedon. It was Antiochus, Antigonus, Ptolemy, Seleucus, and Cassander. Those were his four generals who his kingdom was split between. Those were Alexander the Great's four generals. So if we was to type in Alexander the Great's four generals, who were they? Here we go. Four generals. This is them here. What were the names of Alexander the Great's four generals? This is them here. Cassander, Ptolemy, Antigonus, and Seleucus. Right? These were the four generals. So when it says here, when it says, and when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken and shall be divided, because after his death, his kingdom was divided towards the four winds of heaven, which were his four generals. Antigonus, Cassander, Ptolemy, and Seleucus. And not to his prosperity, all right, which were his children. It didn't go to his children because they killed his children. They killed, between the four generals, they conspired and they killed Alexander the Great's all of his offsprings, and then they took control of his empire. They split it between the four of them, all right? Not according to his dominion, which he ruled, for his kingdom shall be plucked up, even for others beside those, all right? So verse 5, and the king of the south shall be strong, and one of his princes, and he shall be strong above him, and have dominion. His dominion shall be a great dominion. So now who's the king of the south? The divisions of Alexander's empire, the descendants of Ptolemy the first in Egypt. The king of the south, and those of Seleucus the first in Syria, is the king of the north. The king of the south is the Ptolemy empire. The king of the north is the Seleucus empire, right? It's just, their conflicts, just so you understand, were an impact on Israel back then, located directly between them. The king of the north, Seleucus, became stronger than Ptolemy. All right? Just so you understand that, all right? That's what verse 5 is talking about. All right? So that's talking about these two people here. You got the Ptolemy Empire, the kingdom of Ptolemy. Does it show me here in that picture? And the kingdom of Seleucus. All right? So you got the Ptolemy and the Seleucus Empire. I don't know if it shows me in this picture here. Asia Minor. So the king of the north was up here, and the king of the south was down here, the Seleucid Empire. All right, just so you understand that. All right, sorry, the king of the south was the Ptolemy Empire. I'm confusing myself. So the king of the south was down here, Egypt. He controlled Egypt, parts of down here, and the king of the north was the Seleucid Empire, which was like what we know today as modern day Syria, all right, above there. So this is why I say Israel, see Jerusalem, was sitting in between the two kingdoms, all right, between the two of them. So look, there you go, look, see that? I don't know if you can see that. Kingdom of Seleucus, all right, is yellow. That's up here. So that's Seleucus Empire as a king of the north. The king of the south is Ptolemy. You see, the blue. That's all of Ptolemy's empire. And that's us, little old Israel, was stuck in between these two. So when the scripture says here, and the king of the south shall be strong, and one of his princes, and he shall be strong above him, and have dominion. His dominion shall be a great dominion. All right? So, just like we showed you here, where are we? Get rid of that for now. There you go there. King of the north, king of the south. South is Ptolemy. Down here. King of the north is Seleucus. See how big his empire was? He took control of all of that. That's why it says that he will be stronger than the king of the south. Alright, that's why it says that. Alright, and he shall be strong above him and have dominion. His dominion shall be a great dominion. Right, and in the end of years they shall join themselves together. For the king's daughter of the south shall come to the king of the north to make an agreement. But she shall not retain the power of the arm, neither shall he stand, nor his arm, but she shall be given up. And they that brought her, and he that begat her, and he that strengthened her in these times. So now who's that talking about? The king's daughter of the south shall come to the king of the north to make an agreement. That daughter is who? Berenice, daughter of Ptolemy II, right? Ptolemy Philadelphus, who was married to Antiochus Theus, the third king of Syria. All right, so that's who that's talking about. So if we was to look at the... Bernice, what's this one? I don't really want to have to keep showing you what it is, you know. I'm going to keep telling you because it's going to take too long. I'm not going to keep going because it's going to take too long. If I have to show you every detail, I'm just going to explain it to you. You can do the research yourself, right? It'll give you something to do. But I'm going to explain each verse of this to you, right? Verse 7, right? So it says here, but out of a branch of her roots shall one stand up in his estate, which shall come with an army, and shall enter into the fortress of the king of the north, and shall deal against them, and shall prevail. The branch of her roots who shall come with an army against the king of the north, that's the brother of Bernice. All right? Bernice is the daughter of Ptolemy II, Ptolemy Philadelphus. Ptolemy, the brother's name is Ptolemy Energetus. 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 He is the successor of Ptolemy Philadelphus. He's the one that can invade and sack Syria in revenge for the assassination of his sister Bernice. That's what verse 7 is talking about. Okay? All right? We're going to go through this for you, right? Verse 8. And shall also carry captives into Egypt their gods, with their princes, and with their precious vessels of silver, of gold. And he shall continue more years than the king of the north. All right? So when it says, and he shall also carry captives into Egypt their gods, with their princes, that's Ptolemy III. Eugatus, his name is Eugatus, king of the south, carries captives and gold from Syria, from the king of the north, Antiochus III, Bernice's husband. All right, that's what that's talking about in verse 8. All right, verse 9. So the king of the south, all right, I'm going to stop right here again, because these devils think the king of the south and the king of the north is talking about Saudi Arabia and Iran, all right, or talking about Russia and Saudi Arabia or whatever. All of what I'm reading to you has already come to pass. All of this happened over 2,000 years ago. All right? All of these prophecies that I'm reading to you in Daniel's chapter 11 has already happened, and all of them came to pass over 2,000 years ago. All right? Just so you understand. So, back to scripture. So the king of the south shall come into his kingdom and shall return into his own land. The king of the south is Ptolemy Philopator, all right, who's going to gather his own army and defeated the king of the north. That's Antiochus the Great, all right. That's verse. Sorry, I'm confusing myself here. The king of the south here is Ptolemy III, Eugatus. He returns home from Egypt while he was away, because while he was away fighting, he left his wife Bernice II in charge of the country, but she swiftly returned when trouble erupted there. All right, so that's why that took place. All right, that's why it says, and shall return to his own land. He had to return because of what was happening back home. All right, because he left his wife in charge, but he swiftly returned when trouble erupted back in his own kingdom in the south here. Right here. He had to return back to here, down to the south, right? I'm going to work with this here instead of having to keep trying to pull out all of these different. Put you over here. Right, okay? Just so you understand. Right, so that's what verse 9 is. That's who that's talking about. Ptolemy III, Eugatus, right? That's who that is. Verse 10. But his sons shall be stirred up, and shall assemble a multitude of great forces, and one shall certainly come and overflow and pass through. Then shall he return and be stirred up even to his fortress. All right? So when it says his son shall be stirred up and shall assemble a multitude of great forces, that's Ptolemy the fourth, Philopator. Philopator. Ptolemy the fourth, Philopator. That's the son of Ptolemy the third. Ptolemy the third. Eugatus, right? His name is spelled E-U-E-R, all right? G-E-T-E-S. That's his father. So this is talking about Ptolemy the fourth, Philopator, the son of Ptolemy the third and Bernice the second, all right? Was the fourth pharaoh, right? This is who this person was. He was the fourth pharaoh of the Ptolemy Empire, all right? Which was in Egypt, that controlled Egypt from around 220 to 221 BC to around 200 BC. It was around that time, all right? He was a pharaoh. The decline of the Ptolemaic dynasty began under the reign of Ptolemy the fourth. So that's when that empire, the Ptolemies, terms of strength-wise, in that region started to decline, was under the rulership of Ptolemy the fourth, Philopator. All right, just so you understand. So, verse 11. And the king of the south shall be moved with choler, all right, and shall come forth and fight with him, even with the king of the north. And he shall set forth a great multitude, but the multitude shall be given into his hand. All right, so that's talking about the king of the south, Ptolemy Philopator, gathers his own army and defeats who? The king of the north, Antiochus the Great. This is what that speaks about when it says, and the king of the south shall be moved with choler and shall come forth and fight with him, and even with the king of the north, and he shall set forth a great multitude, but the multitude shall be given into his hand. All right, that's what that's speaking about. Verse 12. And when he has taken away the multitude, right, his heart shall be lifted up, and he shall cast down many, 10,000s, but he shall not be strengthened by it, right? So Ptolemy Philopator shall defeat Antiochus the Great in their first battle, but he shall not be strengthened by it. He's not going to be strengthened by that defeat that he gave to Antiochus the Great, all right? He's going to realize that it wasn't a great defeat as he thought in the first place. I'll quickly get some more, excuse me. All right, so that's what verse 12 is talking about, right? Verse 13. We're gonna go through this with a comb. It says, "For the king of the north shall return." Right? That's talking about Antiochus the Great, right? Well, not Antiochus the Great. You're gonna see. Hold on. "For the king of the north shall return." Let me just get my bearings. "And shall set forth a multitude greater than the former." Right. "And shall certainly come after certain years with a great army and with much riches. For the king of the north shall return." That's talking about Antiochus Epiphanes. "Shall return with a greater army and money into Egypt." All right? Because his father lost the first battle against... Antiochus lost the first battle against Ptolemy Philopator, right? Who defeated him in the first battle, right? So he's going to return, right? And he's going to return with what? So it says, for the king of the north shall return. All right? And he's going to return to fight against Ptolemy. All right? Ptolemy Philippate. All right? This is what that's talking about, verse 13. Verse 14. And it says here, in those times there shall many stand up against the king of the south. All right? Also the robbers of thy people shall exalt themselves to establish the vision, but they shall fall. So the king of the south is who? Seleucus. Right? He shall do battle with the king of the north, which is who? Antiochus the Great. When it says robbers of thy people, Seleucus at that time controls Israel. All right? Seleucus at that time controls Israel. So he's the king of the south. So if I show you again here, you see there? This is the king of the south. Right? This is the Seleucid Empire. Right? This is the Ptolemies. Right? Down here. All right? Down here. See that? See it says Jerusalem? Look. So you can see better. See it says Jerusalem? That's Israel. He controls it. See he's got surrounded? He controls Israel at that time. Alright? So when it says there, the king of the south, Seleucus, shall do battle with the king of the north, Antiochus the Great. Alright? The king of the north, Antiochus the Great, comes from the here. See that? So, verse 15. Where are we? Verse 15. It says here, so the king of the north shall come and cast up a mount, right? And take the most fenced cities, and the arms of the south shall not withstand, neither his chosen people, right? That's Israel. Neither shall there be any strength to withstand. So, King Antiochus the third, Antiochus the Great, is the king of the north, right? He's going to return. He returns with a larger army. Once more, Antiochus attacks the Ptolemy provinces of what they called Syria, right? So he's coming down and he's attacking the provinces, yeah? He's coming down because that is what we know as Syria. He's coming down and attacking those provinces there. This is what he's doing. This is what the king of the north is doing, all right? Antiochus the Great is attacking provinces that are under the rulership of the Ptolemy Empire, which is here. Remember, everything in blue is Ptolemy, all right? So, once more, Antiochus attacks them all, right, in the provinces of Syria and Phoenicia, all right? So Phoenicia would be down here. The Phoenicians were down here. We see Tyre and Gaza. The Phoenician is down here. So he's attacking all of those places there, all right, as well as up here as well, right, in what you kind of know as modern-day Syria, right? Just so you understand. And by about 200 BC, he seems to have possession of it. The Anatolian leader Scopas recovers it for Ptolemy, all right? So that's who recovers this for Ptolemy. His name was Scopas. He was the leader of the Anatolians. I don't know if it shows you the Anatolians here. Or where is it? Can't see it. Right, but he was the one that helps Ptolemy recover parts back of his empire against Antiochus, all right? But that recovery only proved brief, because around about 2 years later, Antiochus defeated Scopas at the battle of Paninium, all right? Near the sources of the Jordan, a battle which marks the end of the Ptolemaic rule in Judea. So here, all right, down here the battle's going on, all right, just so you understand, all right. Verse 16, it says, but he that cometh against him shall do according to his own will, all right, and none shall stand before him, and he shall stand in the glorious land, which by his hand shall be consumed. So the glorious land is where? Come on, do I need to ask that question? The glorious land is Israel, the land of Israel, the land of milk and honey, all right? So when it says, when it says which was repeatedly overrun, and it was because it was completely overrun and devastated by the Seleucids, right, and Antiochus armies in their ongoing wars, because we're stuck in the middle of this war between the Ptolemy Empire and the Seleucid Empire. We're stuck in the middle. This is Israel here. See Jerusalem, we're stuck in the middle of these battles that were going on for decades between these two ex-generals who became kings of Alexander the Great's empire, all right, that he conquered, just so you understand that, all right. So that's what that's talking about here, right, in verse 16, when it says the glorious land is Israel, which by its hand shall be consumed. And that's what it's talking about. We're consumed because we're stuck between the two, right? Israel is stuck between the two, between the Seleucid Empire and between the Ptolemy Empire. So between King Ptolemy and King Antiochus, we're stuck in between the two, all right, as you can quite clearly see, all right. Verse 17, he shall also set his face to enter with the strength of his whole kingdom, and upright ones with him. Thus shall he do, and he shall give him the daughter of women, corrupting her, but she shall not stand on his side, neither be for him. All right. So that's verse 17 we're talking about, all right? So the strength of his kingdoms, that's Antiochus' armies, all right? The daughter of women, when it says, and the daughter of women was the first Cleopatra, the daughter of who? Of Antiochus the Great. And he gave her up to who? To marry Ptolemy Epiphanes the Fifth. That's what he did. So when it says there, thus shall he do, and he shall give him the daughter of women. The daughter of women is Antiochus' daughter, all right, corrupting her, but she shall not stand on his side, neither be for him, all right. So he gave up his daughter, the daughter of Antiochus the Great. He gave her up, which was Cleopatra, which was the first Cleopatra, not the last one that died in Egypt, right, under the Romans. This is the first Cleopatra, right, that was named Cleopatra, was the daughter of Antiochus the Great, that was given up to marry Ptolemy Epiphanes, all right. I think it was Ptolemy Epiphanes the Fifth, all right. But when it says here, but she shall not stand on his side, neither be for him, all right? Cleopatra sided with her husband, Ptolemy Epiphanes, against her father, right? In all matters of war, kingdom, when they went to war against each other, when they fell out, all the differences that they had, right? Because as you know, you give a king, gives his daughter to marry another king to create an alliance between the two kingdoms, all right? But she was sent in there to corrupt him. She was like meant to be like he's, in a sense, he's spy. He's to let him know all of the inner workings of the Ptolemy Empire, all the things that her husband was planning and so forth. She was meant to be the spy for her father, but she didn't. This is why it says, but she shall not stand on his side. She did not stand on her father's side, Antiochus the Great, neither be for him. She wasn't for her father. She stood by her husband, who she married, which was Ptolemy Epiphanes, all right? That's who she stood by. She did not stand by her father. That's exactly what that's telling you right there, all right? That the daughter is Cleopatra, Antiochus the Great's daughter, gave to marry Ptolemy Epiphanes, all right? And like I said, he sent her there when it says, but she shall not stand on his side. Cleopatra sided with her husband. She was not going to be a spy for her father and work with him to try to bring down the Ptolemy Empire. That was the only reason why he gave up his daughter. When it says there, and he shall give him the daughter of women. Right? That's what he did. All right? Just so you understand. Verse 17. That's what verse 17 is. Verse 18. We're going to take this part like a doctor's surgery. When he's doing a surgery, surgeon. They're using surgical tools to take part. Daniel's 11. Verse 18, after this shall he turn his face under the isles, and shall take many, but a prince for his own behalf shall cause the reproach offered by him to cease. Without his own reproach, he shall cause it to turn upon him. All right. So what is that talking about? When it says after this shall he turn his face unto his sides, the eyes represent the coastal towns of the Ptolemy Empire. All right. So the isles represent, where are we? The coastal towns like Gaza, Tyre of the Ptolemy Empire. All right. Alexandria was another coastal town, but mainly the ones that ran along here. All right. That's what that's speaking of. All right. But when it says, but a prince Where are we? Sorry. And then when it says, but a prince for his own behalf shall cause the reproach offered by him to cease. Right? So what that's talking about, that's Scipio Asiaticus, right? He was the leader of the Roman army in Asia Minor, this guy. He defeated the large naval forces brought against him by Antiochus the Great, all right? That's who that's speaking of there. That prince is talking about that Roman general. His name was Scipio I think it's called Asiaticus. I think it's spelled Asiaticua. Asiaticus, right? That's Scipio. He was a leader of the Roman army in Asia Minor at that time. And he defeated the large naval forces brought against him by Antiochus the Great. So these naval forces that came from this guy here, he was the general of Asia Minor up here. He defeated the naval forces that came from Antiochus the Great's empire to the coastal towns of the Ptolemy Empire along here, all right? And, Tyre, Gaza, Alexandria, this is where he sent his ships, Alexander the Great. But it was this Roman general here that helped the Ptolemies, right? His name was Scipio Asiaticus, right? He was in charge of all of that region there. He was the one that sided with the Ptolemies to defeat the naval fleets that Antiochus the Great sent against the Ptolemy empires. So this is what this is speaking about here in verse 18, when it says, without his own reproach he shall cause it to turn upon him. All right? So verse 19, then he shall turn his face towards the fort of his own land, but he shall stumble and fall and not be found. So on his way home to Syria, just so you know this, Antiochus the Great started a fresh campaign, pillaging the temples at, I think it was Elymas, where he died. All right? Yeah, I think it was Elymas, and that's where he actually died, Antiochus the Great. But this is what it's talking about, where he started to pillage, on his defeat going back, he started to pillage the towns that would be in parts of the Ptolemy Empire in here. He started to do pillaging when his ships came back to shore and he had to come back to his own empire, right? He started to pillage the towns that were controlled by Ptolemy, right? Just so you understand, that's verse 19. That's where it says, he shall turn his face towards the fort of his own land, all right? So the fort of his own land is back here. He's turned his ships to come back, right? Because the Roman general Scipio defeated him in the naval battles when he was pillaging the coastal towns of the Ptolemies, all right? That was under their control. Verse 20. Then shall stand up in his estate a raiser of taxes in the glory of the kingdom, but within a few days he shall be destroyed, neither in anger nor in battle. All right? So that's talking about Seleucus Philopator the Fourth. He raised taxes to pay the Romans their tributes because they came to his aid. So he now had to pay tribute to them because they became an ally to the Ptolemies, basically the Romans. All right. So the only way he could do that was by raise taxes. This is why it says, then shall stand up in his estate a raiser of taxes in the glory of the kingdom. That's what he had to do. Seleucus Philopator the Fourth raised the taxes to pay the Romans their tribute. Right. Seleucus was also assassinated by Heliodorus. Right. This is why it says, but within a few days he shall be destroyed, neither in anger nor in battle. He was assassinated. Seleucus Philopator the Fourth, he was assassinated by Heliodorus. He says the money also was taken from the second temple in Jerusalem at the time, because they also ransacked the temple in Jerusalem to pay those taxes to the Roman. Because remember, that's where the Israelites kept their money. Their treasury was inside the temple, Solomon's temple. That's where our treasury was, inside there. All right? Verse 21. And in his estate shall stand up a vile person, to whom they shall not give the honor of the kingdom, but he shall come in peaceably and obtain the kingdom by flatteries. Now, that vile person was who? Was Antiochus Epiphanes. Right? Epiphanes. Antiochus Epiphanes. That's who that vile person was. All right? For those of you that don't know that, okay? So, where am I? So when it says here, where is it? And in his estate shall stand up a vile person. That is talking about Antiochus Epiphanes. He is the second son, just so you know who he is, of King Antiochus the Great. The second son of King Antiochus the Great, right? And he was indeed one of the most morally degraded of men, all right? So if you go to 1 Maccabees chapter 1 verse 10, it talks about how he usurped the Syrian throne from Heliodorus and killed the son of Seleucus Philopator IV. So that would be, if we quickly go to, stop it. Quickly go to I'll quickly show you 1 Maccabees chapter 1 verse 10. He was the one. Here it is here. And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the Great, who had been a hostage at Rome, right? And he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks, right? Because this is who we're speaking about here. So when it speaks of here in Daniel's chapter 11, verse 21, when it says, and in his estate shall stand up a vile person, that person is talking about here is this person here. When it says, and there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, which is Antiochus the Great, who had been a hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. All right? So that's who this is talking about here in verse 21. That vile person is Antiochus Epiphanes, to whom they shall not give the honor of the kingdom, but he shall come in peaceably and obtain the kingdom by flatteries. All right? Because he usurped the Syrian throne from Heliodorus and killed the son of Seleucus Philopator IV. All right? This is who we're talking about here. All right? So Daniel's chapter 11 verse 22. And with the army of a flood shall they be overflown from before him, and shall be broken, yea, also the prince of the covenant. So that's Antiochus Epiphanes when he conquers Egypt and captures King Ptolemy, who is the prince of the covenant, because he made a covenant with the Israelites, the Ptolemies. All right, just so you understand that. All right, that's what that's speaking of when he says, yea, also the prince of the covenant. He had made a covenant with the Israelites, all right, of peace, you know, that he had with them while he was ruling. Where is it? While he was ruling Israel. Yeah, just so you can see most of Israel. So verse 23. And after the league made with him, he shall work deceitfully, for he shall come up and shall become strong with a small people. Right? So Antiochus made Ptolemy VI a puppet ruler and made a league with Rome. And that's what that's basically talking about, because he made a league with Rome and he made him a puppet ruler. All right? This is what he did. All right? Antiochus, he made a league with... He made a league with Ptolemy VI, and he had a puppet ruler, and he had made a league with Rome. So this is what that is talking about there in verse 23. Verse 24. He shall enter peacefully even upon the fattest places of the province, and he shall do that which his fathers have not done, nor his fathers' fathers. He shall scatter among them the prey and spoil and riches. Yea, and he shall forecast his devices against the strongholds even for a time. So that's verse 24. So that's Antiochus Epiphanes, who attacks king of the south, Ptolemy VI in Egypt again. That's what that's talking about there when it says, he shall scatter among them the prey and spoil and the riches. Yea, he shall forecast his devices against the strongholds even for a time. So that's him now going to war against Ptolemy again. But this is Epiphanes. This is Antiochus the Great's second son. All right. Verse 25. And he shall stir up his power and his courage against the king of the south with a great army. And the king of the south shall be stirred up to battle with a very great and mighty army. but he shall not stand, for they shall forecast devices against him. All right. So that's talking about when it says, and he shall stir up his power and his courage against the king of the south with a great army. That's Antiochus Epiphanes, all right, who defeats king of the south, Ptolemy the Sixth in Egypt. That's the second attack. That can be read about in 1 Maccabees chapter 1. Chapter 1, I'm in the right place, verse 17. That's going to be read up here. It says, wherefore he entered into Egypt with a great multitude, with chariots and elephants and horsemen, with a great navy, and made war against Ptolemy, king of Egypt. All right? But Ptolemy was afraid of him and fled, and many were wounded to death. Thus he got the strong cities in the land of Egypt, and he took the spoils thereof. And after that, right, Antiochus had spent Egypt, he returned again into 143rd year and went up against Israel and Jerusalem with a great multitude. All right, so this is what this is talking about here. In verse 25, when he says, and he shall stir up his power and his courage against the king of the south with a great army, and a king of the south shall be stirred up to battle with a great and mighty army, but he shall not stand, for they shall forecast devices against him. That's what that is talking about. That's talking about what we just read to you in 1 Maccabees chapter 1, verse 17, 18 and 19. That's talking about Antiochus Epiphanes, who defeated king of the south, which is Ptolemy the Sixth in Egypt. That was the second attack he did against the Ptolemaic Empire. We're talking about Antiochus Epiphanes himself, right? Verse 26, yea, they that feed of the portion of his great meat shall destroy him, and his army shall overflow, and many shall fall down slain. All right? So that's the king of the south, Ptolemy the Sixth empire falls, totally falls. All right? That's what that's speaking about when it says he shall, and many shall fall down and be slain. Verse 27, and both these kings' hearts shall be to do mischief, and they shall speak lies at one table, but it shall not prosper, for yet the end shall be at the time appointed. So both of these kings' hearts shall do mischief. These kings are who? The Ptolemy brothers, who shall agree to rule Egypt jointly. That's what that's speaking of. Verse 27. All right, they're gonna agree to rule Egypt jointly, basically. So that's where that all comes from. All right. Verse 28 it says, then shall he return into his land with great riches, and his heart shall be against the holy covenant, and he shall do exploits and return to his own land. All right. So that's when it says then shall he return into his land with great riches, and his heart shall be against the holy covenant. That's talking about Antiochus Epiphanes. He returns back to Syria with his mind set on where? On the great land. What's the great land? Oh, that's the holy covenant. Against the holy covenant. That's talking about the land of Israel. His mind is set on, how do I conquer the rest of Israel, all of Israel. All right. Verse 29. At the time appointed he shall return and come towards the south, but it shall not be as the former or as the latter. All right. So that's talking about Antiochus Epiphanes when he carried one of his most successful invasions when he was plundering Egypt. But on his return to Egypt, he is repelled by who? By the Romans, who told him attacking Egypt is what? Is an act of war against Rome. Why? Because Rome has made a treaty, an alliance with the Ptolemaic Empire. Remember, the Ptolemies were paying tribute to the Romans. All right, so this is what that verse 29 is speaking about. When it says, at the time appointed he shall return and come towards the south, but it shall not be as the former or as the latter, because the Romans now said, what the hell, like, what are you doing? All right, because he was attacking Egypt. All right, so that was an act of war against Rome. Verse 30, it says, for the ships of ch11 shall come against him. Therefore he shall be grieved and return and have indignation against the holy covenant. So shall he do. He shall even return and have intelligence with them that forsake the holy covenant. So when it says for the ships of ch11 shall come against him, those are who? Those are the Romans who came up against Antiochus Epiphanes, right? Because of his indignation against the holy covenant, right? which was the news of what? Of the Israelites' revolt in Jerusalem, led by who? Jason, the high priest, when he enraged Antiochus, right? That's what it says there. When it says there, when it says, therefore he shall be grieved and return and have indignation against the holy covenant. So shall he do. He shall even return and have intelligence with them that forsake the holy covenant. So that's because he heard about his indignation was against the holy covenant, right? And the revolt that the Israelites under Jason the high priest had started against Antiochus, all right? Verse 31. He says, an arm shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination that maketh desolate. All right? So, that, I'm sure, I know most of you know about this. That's Antiochus Epiphanes does what? He attacks Jerusalem. And on his return, what does he do? He desecrates and pillages the holy temple, Solomon's temple. That's what he does. Right? If we go into First Maccabees, verse 23. What do I want? Start from verse 20. It says, and after Antiochus had smitten Egypt, he returned again in the 143rd year and went up against Israel and Jerusalem with a great multitude. All right? And this is talking about going up against the Maccabees. And entered proudly into the sanctuary, and took away the golden altar and the candlesticks of light, and all the vessels thereof, and the table of the shewbread, and the pouring vessels, and the vials, and the censers of gold, and the veil, and the crown, and the golden ornaments that were before the temple, all which he pulled off. He took also the silver, and the gold, and the precious vessels. Also he took the hidden treasures which he found, and when he had taken all away, he went into his own land, having made a great massacre and spoken very proudly. Therefore there was a great mourning in Israel in every place where they were. So that goes back to here, when we go back to verse 31, when it says, an arm shall stand up on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of the strength, and shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination that maketh it desolate. So that's talking about Antiochus the Great. Like I said, that's gone in to Jerusalem and desecrated and pillaged the holy temple. All right, what we just read about in First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 20 to 25. All right, verse 32. And such as do wickedly against the covenant shall he corrupt by flatteries. But the people that do know their power shall be strong and do exploits. So when it says such as do wickedly against the covenant shall he corrupt by flatteries, that goes into when you read First Maccabees chapter 1 verse 11. In those days there went out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. So this is what this is referring to here. When it says, and such as do wickedly against the covenant, talking about those men of Israel, shall be corrupted by flatteries. Those are those Israelite men that said in those days, they were out of Israel, wicked men who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. All right, those are those men here that it's speaking about here. But the people that do know their power shall do strong and do exploits. All right. So when it says there, it says when it says but the people that know their power will do strong and do exploits. These were the blasphemous acts of Antiochus Epiphanes stirred up the faithful Jews, right? Israelites to revolt, led by who? Matthias and his sons, who are the Maccabees, which is why we're reading from the Maccabees, because all those stories about those exploits are in the book of the first and second Maccabees. So those are Maccabees' sons we're speaking of here, right? Judas who was a successful war of independence was waged against Antiochus. That's why we do what? We celebrate what? The feast of dedication. Those so-called Jews called Hanukkah. All right, that's what they call it, Hanukkah. All right. So, verse 33. It says, and they that understand among the people shall instruct many, yet they shall fall by the sword, and by flame, by captivity, and by spoil many days. So that's a future prophecy of captivity, of subjection under who? King Antiochus Epiphanes' captivity and subjection under King Antiochus. A long period was foretold in which the Israelites would fall by the sword and by flame and by captivity and by spoil. That's what that's talking about, all right? Verse 34. It says, now when they shall fall, they shall be holpen with a little help, but many shall cleave to them with flatteries, all right? So that's a future prophecy of the Israelites falling under King Antiochus, what we read about in 1 Maccabees chapter 11, when it says, but the people that do know that the Most High shall be strong and do exploits. These blasphemous acts of Antiochus Epiphanes stirred up the faithful Israelites, who were led by Matthias and his son, Judas Maccabees, that led the wars against them. That's still talking about that. Verse 35. And some of them understanding shall fall, to try them and to purge and to make them white, even to the time of the end, because it is yet for a time appointed. All right? So that's talking about the Israelites. All right? Verse 36, when it says, and the king shall do according to his will. He shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every power, and shall speak marvelous things against the Most High, right, of gods, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished. For that is determined shall be done. That king was the son of Antiochus III the Great. His original name was Mithridates, right? He assumed the name Antiochus after he ascended to the throne. Antiochus also was a member of the Hellenistic Greek Seleucid dynasty and was the son of the potential successor of King Antiochus III, right? So that's what that's talking about there. Don't want to have to really go into too much detail about that, but that's referring to there, all right? He magnified himself, he thought he was a god, just like how Esau does today. They believe they're a god. The same thing there. He magnified himself above every god, and he spoke marvelous things against the gods, right? And he shall prosper to the nation shall be accomplished, for that is determined shall be done, all right? Because he believed he was a god, all right? Verse 37. Neither shall he regard the Most High of his fathers, nor the desire of women, nor regard any god, for he shall magnify himself above all. So when it says neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women, nor the regard of any god, that's talking about King Antiochus, who was the second son of Antiochus III, and I think the wife's name was Laodice III, right? So that's who that's talking about there, right? When he said he shall regard the God of his fathers, nor desire or women, nor regard of any god, right? Why? Because Seleucus IV wed his sister, Laodicea IV, by whom they had 3 children, 2 sons. One was Antiochus, one was Demetrius I, and the other one was Sota. Demetrius I Sota, and they had a daughter, all right? They had 2 sons and a daughter. Those were the 3 children. Verse 38, when it says there, but in his estate shall he honor the Most High of force, the God of forces, and the God whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold and silver and with precious stones and pleasant things. So that's King Antiochus worship. King Antiochus worship calls him Epiphanes, the mad one. They called him the mad one. He was a word play on his title Epiphanes, but that's what they called him, a mad one, right? That's who that's talking about here, all right? It said, thus shall he do in the most strongholds with a strange God, whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory, and he shall cause them to rule over many, and shall divide the land for gain. That's talking about King Antiochus Epiphanes. He's the one that does that, divides the land and causes them to rule over many. Right? He's now ruling over different parts of Israel and the empire of the Ptolemies. All right, verse 40. And at that time of the end shall the king of the south push at him, and the king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind, with chariots and with horsemen and with many ships. And he shall enter into the countries and shall overflow the Passover. Right? So that's talking about Seleucus with the Ptolemies before them, held a mild, suzerainty over Judea, right? They respected the Israelite culture and protected Israelite institutions, but the policy was drastically reversed by who? By Antiochus IV, resulted in what? Harsh persecutions and a revolt against his rule. By who? By the Maccabees. You just go read the book of the Maccabees 1 and 2 and it tells you about the harsh punishments that Antiochus the fourth Epiphanes did against the Israelites, and about the fight back that the Maccabees done, Matthias and his 5 sons, all right? Which we know as the Maccabees, right? The warriors, that's what that's speaking about there. So, verse 41. He shall enter also into the glorious land, and many countries shall be overthrown, but these shall escape out of his hand, even Edom and Moab and the chief of the children of Ammon. So Israel is the glorious land. It's talking about Israel, the land of Israel. This is talking about when Antiochus decided to Hellenize the Israelites, the Jews, in order to what? To consolidate his empire. That's why we tell you about the Hellenistic Jews, the Israelite Gentiles that were Hellenized. They were done by this guy Antiochus during the times of his revolts against the Maccabees. It was this guy here, Antiochus, surname Epiphany. He's the one that Hellenized the Israelites. All right. So when it says, "But these shall escape out of his hand," all right, it says he outlawed most of our traditions and our festive seasons. Right, basically in that, and that's what all the Hellenization was about. You just got to go to the book of 2 Maccabees, chapter 6, verse 1, and it explains that to you. All right, verse 42. He shall stretch forth his hand also upon the countries, and the land of Egypt shall not escape. All right. So when it says he shall stretch forth his hand also upon the countries, that was around 168 BC when Antiochus led a second attack on Egypt and sent a fleet to capture Cyprus, because Cyprus was controlled by who? By the Ptolemies. See Cyprus there? That's part of the Ptolemy Empire. Right? So Antiochus from the Seleucid Empire, that's what that's talking about there. And excuse me, right? And before he reached Alexandria, his path was blocked by a single elderly Roman ambassador named who? Gaius Populus Laenus, who delivered a message from the Roman Senate to Antiochus to withdraw his armies from Egypt and Cyprus, or consider himself in a state of war with the Republic of Rome, because he was on his way to also capture from Cyprus. He was on his way to capture where? Alexandria, which was known as the capital. But remember, the Ptolemies had a treaty, an alliance with Rome. So it was that general there, that Roman ambassador named Gaius Populus Laenus, who delivered a message from the Roman Senate directing Antiochus to withdraw his armies from where? From Egypt, which is the Ptolemy Empire, and from Cyprus, or consider himself an enemy of Rome. So this is at this time Rome is coming into its power. All right, just so you understand. All right, nearly there. Verse 43. But he shall have power over the treasures of gold and of silver, and over all the precious things of Egypt, and the Libyans and the Ethiopians shall be at his steps. All right, that's talking about King Antiochus Epiphanes IV. He's got all of those under his part of his armies. The Libyans and the Ethiopians have sided with him. All right, just so you understand. Verse 44. But the tidings out of the east and out of the north shall trouble him. Therefore he shall go forth with a great fury to destroy and utterly to make away many. So that's talking about King Antiochus again, Epiphanes IV, who recognizes the potential danger in the east, but was unwilling to give up control of where? Of Judea, Jerusalem. All right. He was unwilling to give up control of there. All right. So when it says there, so they sent a commander named, I think his name was Lysias, to deal with the Maccabees. All right. That's who Antiochus said. He sent a commander out of his army called Lysias to deal with the Maccabees, while the king himself led the main Seleucid army against the Parthians. All right. Antiochus had initial success in the eastern campaign, including the reoccupation of Armenia. So that's the Parthians will be up here. Armenia's up here. All right. Which would be part of the where the Romans were probably going to war with, right? I believe, no. Is it up here the Parthians are? I believe it's around here. I know Armenia's up here. I believe the Parthian Empire is somewhere around here. Some revolts that was going on in his empire. So when it says, but tidings out of the east and out of the north shall trouble him. Therefore he shall go forth with a great fury to destroy and utterly make away many. Right? Those tidings out of the east, talking about in his own empire. This is the east here. I think Armenia's up here somewhere and Parthian Empire is somewhere around here. So he's had to go back because he's heard those tidings. This is what this is talking about. When he says, but tidings out of the east and out of the north shall trouble him. All right? The north, Armenia, up in the north here. All right, the east, the Parthian Empire, I believe, is over here somewhere. That's the east. Those are the tidings in his own empire that had troubled him. So what did he have to do? He sent a commander named Lysias to deal with the Maccabees in Israel, right? The Maccabees, brother, with the king himself led the main Seleucian army against the Parthians, which are here, I believe somewhere around here. And Antiochus had an initial success in the eastern campaign, including the reoccupation of Armenia, which is up here. When it says reoccupation, meaning that they already controlled it, but they had troubles back in their own lands, so he had to come back there, right? But he died suddenly around 164 BC, right? And then when it's the last verse, it says, and he shall plant the tabernacles of his palace between the seas in the glorious holy mountains, yet he shall come to his end, and none shall help him. So when Antiochus heard that his army had been defeated in Judea, right? Because they got defeated by who? By the Maccabees, right? Judas and his brothers, right? So when he heard about his defeat there, he boarded a ship and fled to the coastal cities, right? But this is where, this is when it talks about, when it says here, it says, and he shall plant the tabernacles of his palace between the seas and the glorious holy mountains, yet he shall come to his end, and none shall help him. So that's talking about he lost the battles against the Maccabees, and then that's talking about his final death when he died of that incurable disease. And that's when you read in 2 Maccabees, it tells you about his death. 2 Maccabees, chapter 9, I believe it's in. 2 Maccabees, chapter 9, verse 29. Or verse, somewhere up here. See, it's in here, it tells you about his death. I don't have to bloody... But it's in here, I don't want to have to seek it out again. Smell it easy with me, it's subject we could persevere. We can remember kindly. It's in here, it talks about his death anyway. But that is it. That is Daniel chapter 11 in a nutshell. It is a prophecy that's already come to pass over 2,000 years ago. So when you see this man telling you about Daniel chapter 11 is what's happening now in the Middle East, it's total bullshit. These rabbis, these priests, these theologians, these deacons, they do not understand the Bible. They do not understand the prophecies. They couldn't break down a book in the Bible. They don't know nothing about scriptures. They just read it like it's a novel. All right. Daniel chapter 11 has already happened. It's not what's taking place now in the Middle East. Absolutely not. It's already come to pass. And I just gave it a full breakdown of Daniel chapter 11 to the best of my ability. So on that note, I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Bashim, Yahushai, Bashim, Rekah, Kodash, Tawada, Amen. Barakatay Yahweh, Barakatay Yahushai. Shalom Makayam. I pray this was an edifying breakdown of Daniel chapter 11 to the brothers and sisters out there. Shalom Makayams.